Commander Darren Hunter's knuckles went white as the alien warship from the Komar Empire filled the display screen. Its immense black hull swallowing the stars and dwarfing humanity's meager orbital fleet. The veteran space commander had faced many challenges, but this first contact would test him like no other. He gripped the edge of the console as the Komar ship's message blared through the bridge speakers. People of Earth, you are hopelessly outmatched. Surrender immediately or face annihilation. Darren's jaw clenched. He took a breath, then leaned forward and pressed the comm button. This is Commander Darren Hunter of the Earth Defense Fleet. We will not surrender. We will fight to defend our planet, our freedom, no matter the odds. The Komar's reply was swift and brutal. In a horrific display of power, their ship effortlessly vaporized a string of Earth's defensive satellites. Silence fell over the bridge, the crew stunned by the ease of the destruction. Darren stared at the screen, cold realization sinking in. The Komar technology was far beyond anything Earth possessed. They were sitting ducks. The Komar commander's image appeared, his features sharp and imposing. I am Sire Father of the Komar Empire. Your species is now under our dominion. You will provide us resources, slave labor. If you resist, we will raise your cities from orbit. Darren had to think fast. He needed more information, needed to stall for time. Sire Father, before we can proceed, we must understand the terms of this arrangement. As Darren engaged the Komar commander, he covertly signaled his crew to gather all available data on the alien ship. What he learned chilled him to the bone. The Komar were a warlike species, their empire spanning dozens of subjugated worlds. Earth was simply their latest acquisition, to be stripped of resources and pressed under their boot. Darren knew Earth stood no chance in open war. His mind raced, a desperate plan taking shape. They needed time, needed to prepare, to find a way to fight back. He had to play a dangerous game. Steeling himself, Darren again addressed Sire Father. Commander, to avoid unnecessary chaos, I will announce to my people that we are entering an alliance with your great empire. Sire Father's eyes narrowed, but he nodded. A wise choice. But even as Darren spoke the words, his true intentions crystallized. He would build a resistance from the shadows, study the enemy, find their weaknesses. Earth would fight, even if it had to be from within the belly of the beast. The fate of humanity now rested on Darren's shoulders as he walked a razor's edge between subservience and rebellion. The battle for Earth had only just begun. The oppressive heat of the Amazon rainforest clung to Darren like a suffocating blanket as he trekked through the dense undergrowth. Posing as a Komar-approved inspector, he infiltrated the heavily guarded mining operation deep in the heart of the jungle. The shimmering force fields and towering machinery stood in stark contrast to the ancient trees and tangled vines. Inside the main facility, Darren discovered the true purpose of the mine. The rare minerals extracted here were essential components in the Komar's advanced energy weapons and shields. He watched as the glowing blue ore was processed and loaded into sleek containers bearing the Empire's insignia. Seizing the opportunity, Darren slipped into a maintenance room and planted a series of explosive charges on the main power conduits. The sabotage would set back the Komar's operations for months. As he made his escape, Darren overheard two Komar officers discussing a planned cultural exchange program aimed at indoctrinating human leaders and influencers. Weeks later, Darren found himself in a dimly lit basement in Berlin, surrounded by resistance leaders from across the globe. They pored over stolen Komar data files and intercepted communications, piecing together a picture of the enemy's plans. The cultural exchange is a trap, Darren explained, pointing to a holographic display. Sire Father wants to turn our own people against us, to fracture our unity. The resistance leaders nodded grimly, their faces etched with tenacity. Together, they hatched a plan for a simultaneous global uprising to catch the Komar off guard. In the opulent halls of the Komar embassy in Geneva, Sire Father played host to a gathering of Earth's elites. Politicians, celebrities, and business magnates mingled under the soft light, sipping exotic cocktails and marveling at the alien technology on display. Sirefather moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his sharp features split in a calculated smile. He spoke of partnership, of a new era of prosperity under Komar guidance. Some of the human leaders hung on his every word, their eyes gleaming with ambition. Darren's resistance dealt a blow when a high-ranking mole within their ranks was exposed and publicly executed by Sirefather. The traitor's death sent shockwaves through the movement, sowing fear and paranoia. But Darren refused to back down. He assembled a team of the Resistance's most skilled operatives for a daring mission to steal Komar shield technology from their Geneva stronghold. In a blitz of gunfire and explosions, the team breached the embassy's defenses and secured the advanced tech. The cost was high. Half of Darren's team didn't make it out alive, but their sacrifice gave Earth a fighting chance. Darren delivered the stolen shield generator to a secret research facility where the planet's greatest scientific minds worked to reverse engineer and develop countermeasures. Darren Hunter stood before his hand-picked team of soldiers and resistance fighters. The dim light of their underground bunker cast long shadows across their faces.
"This is it,"
Darren said, his voice steady despite the gravity of their mission. "We've got one shot at this. Our people are up there and we're bringing them home." He activated a holographic display, showing the massive Komar mothership looming in Earth's orbit. "Thanks to our eggheads, we've cracked their shield frequency. We'll use their own tech against them." The team moved out, boarding a modified shuttle equipped with reverse-engineered Komar cloaking technology. As they approached the alien vessel, Darren's heart raced. The mothership's hull filled their view screen, covered in strange, pulsing lights. "Initiating docking sequence," the pilot announced. With a soft thud, they latched onto the Komar ship. Darren led the charge, his team moving swiftly through the alien corridors. The air was thick with an acrid, unfamiliar smell. As they delved deeper into the ship, they encountered a horrifying sight. Rows upon rows of stasis pods lined the walls, each containing a human subject. Scientists in Komar uniforms moved between them, taking readings and injecting strange, glowing fluids. "My God," one of Darren's team whispered. "What are they doing to them?" Darren's blood ran cold as he examined a nearby computer terminal. "They're experimenting on them, trying to create some kind of hybrid super soldier." Fury coursed through him as he realized the full extent of the Komar's plans. They weren't just conquerors. They were harvesting humanity itself. "We need to get these people out," Darren ordered, moving to release the captives. Alarms blared suddenly, bathing the chamber in pulsing red light. "Intruder alert. All units converge on Sector 7. Darren cursed. "Move! We need to find the others and get out of here." They fought their way through waves of Komar soldiers, their weapons barely effective against the alien armor. Just as hope began to fade, they stumbled upon the cell block holding the captured scientists. "Commander Hunter!" one of them called out as Darren blasted the lock. "You came for us!" "No one gets left behind," Darren replied, helping them to their feet. "Now let's move." But as they turned to leave, they found their path blocked by a wall of Komar troops, led by none other than Sirefather himself. "Did you really think you could infiltrate my ship so easily?" the alien leader sneered. Darren raised his weapon, ready for what might be his final stand, but one of the scientists grabbed his arm. "Wait," she hissed. "The ship's FTL drive. It uses an artificial singularity. If we could overload it." Darren's mind raced, formulating a desperate plan. "Split up," he ordered his team. "Half of you create a diversion. The rest, with me to the drive core." The ensuing battle tore through the ship's corridors. Darren's decoy team fought valiantly, drawing the bulk of the Komar forces away. But the cost was high. Darren watched in anguish as good men and women fell to alien weapons. Meanwhile, Darren led the strike team deeper into the ship's bowels. They fought their way through increasingly heavy resistance, finally reaching the heavily fortified drive core. "We need to overload it," the scientist explained, her hands flying over alien controls. "But too much power, and we could destroy Earth along with the ship." Darren nodded grimly. Do it. We'll hold them off. As the scientist worked, Darren turned to face the oncoming Komar forces. The air crackled with energy as the singularity containment began to fail. Suddenly, Sirefather himself appeared, his eyes blazing with fury. You dare? He roared, charging at Darren. The two leaders clashed in a brutal hand-to-hand fight, each knowing the fate of their people hung in the balance. Darren fought with every ounce of strength he had left, driven by the knowledge of what the Komar planned for Earth. Around them, the ship began to tear itself apart. Alarms screamed as systems failed across the vessel. It's done, the scientist shouted. We need to go now. Darren disengaged from Sirefather, sprinting for the exit with his remaining team. They fought their way to their shuttle, the Komar ship disintegrating around them. As they blasted free from the dying vessel, Darren watched the massive alien craft list in orbit, sparks of energy crackling across its hull. They had struck a mighty blow, but the cost had been immense. The destruction of the Komar mothership had been a crucial victory, but Darren knew the war was just getting started. As he sat in the dim light of the Resistance's underground command center, poring over intelligence reports, a new strategy began to take shape. We need to hit them where it hurts, Darren said to his assembled team. Not with weapons, but with information. He tapped a few keys, bringing up profiles of two Komar leaders on the main screen. Sirefather and Commander Zaratha, our intel suggests there's tension between these two. We're going to exploit that. Darren's plan was audacious. They would plant false information, driving a wedge between the Komar factions. It was a dangerous game, but one they had to play. Weeks later, Darren stood in a hidden observation post, watching as Zarathi's troops stormed what appeared to be an abandoned Komar lab. The evidence they'd planted was gruesome. Fabricated human remains and falsified research logs detailing horrific experiments. Sir, one of Zaratha's officers reported, the data confirms it. Sirefather has gone rogue. Darren allowed himself a grim smile. The seeds of doubt had been planted. The confrontation between Zarathi and Sirefather was fierce. Darren's team had tapped into the Komar communication channels, listening as the two commanders hurled accusations at each other. "You've violated our most sacred protocols," Zaratha shouted. "These humans were to be assimilated, not butchered." Sirefather's voice was cold. "You're a fool, Zaratha. This is clearly rebel propaganda." But the damage was done. Trust between the two factions crumbled, and soon the first skirmishes broke out. Darren watched from a rooftop as Komar troops exchanged fire in the streets of Chicago. The resistance seized the opportunity, launching surgical strikes to free human prisoners and capture Komar weapons caches. As the alien civil war intensified, Darren's team worked tirelessly to manipulate both sides. They intercepted and altered communications, escalating misunderstandings into full-blown confrontations. In New York, Zarathi's forces set up integration centers, trying to win over the human population. Meanwhile, Sirefather's troops razed entire neighborhoods in Los Angeles that resisted their rule. The arrival of the Komar arbitration force should have ended the conflict. Instead, it threw fuel on the fire. Darren watched with a mix of horror and satisfaction as both Komar factions turned their weapons on the newcomers, convinced it was an attempt to usurp their power. As the Komar tore themselves apart, Darren saw his chance. He addressed a gathering of resistance leaders from around the globe. "The enemy is divided," he said, his voice filled with drive. "Now is the time to strike. We'll present ourselves as the only path forward, not subjugation, not assimilation, but freedom. Are you with me?" The response was unanimous. As one, they rose, ready to take back their world. Darren Hunter stood atop a crumbling skyscraper, surveying the chaos below. The streets of Chicago teemed with Komar forces locked in brutal combat against each other. Plasma bolts lit up the night sky as alien ships strafed their own kind. "Now's our chance," Darren said into his comm. "All units execute Operation Hammerfall." Across the city, human resistance cells sprang into action, Years of oppression had forged them into a lethal force, their anger honed to a razor's edge. In the financial district, Sarah Chen led her team through the sewers, emerging beneath a Komar supply depot. They planted demolition charges with practiced efficiency. "Charges set," Sarah reported. "Detonating in 3, 2, 1. The ground shook as explosions ripped through Komar stockpiles. Alien war machines went up in flames, their ammunition cooking off in spectacular chain reactions. Across town, Miguel Rodriguez piloted a captured Komar skimmer, leading a suicide run against a communication hub. His voice crackled over the radio. "For Earth." The skimmer plowed into the alien structure, erupting in a fireball that took out the entire complex. Darren's elite shock troops, clad in reverse-engineered Komar exo-armor, struck like lightning. They hit hardened bunkers and command centers, their augmented strength allowing them to tear through alien defenses. Private Jack Wilson, barely 19 years old, found himself face-to-face with a Komar officer. The alien's 4 eyes widened in shock as Jack's armored fist caved in its chest cavity. "That's for my family," Jack snarled. As dawn broke, the human resistance had struck crippling blows against both Komar factions. Xeroth's moderates reeled from the betrayal of their assimilated subjects. Entire city blocks erupted in revolt as sleeper agents activated, catching the aliens completely off guard. In New York, resistance fighter Elena Petrova led an uprising in a Komar integration center. The aliens' pacifist approach left them woefully unprepared for the savagery of human vengeance. Elena watched with grim satisfaction as former collaborators turned on their masters, tearing them apart with their bare hands. Sirefather's hardliners initially capitalized on the chaos, pushing into territories held by Xeroth's forces, but their aggressive advance left them overextended and vulnerable. Darren's guerrilla units struck like phantoms, targeting supply lines and isolated outposts. They'd melt away before Komar reinforcements could arrive, leaving only destruction in their wake. In the ruins of London, resistance sniper David Thompson picked off Komar officers one by one. Each shot sowed further confusion in the alien ranks as command structures crumbled. The great cities of Earth became meat grinders, alien and human blood mingling in the gutters. Komar energy weapons reduced entire blocks to ash, while human insurgents fought with a tenacity that shocked even their alien oppressors. Darren received word of Sirefather's audacious attempt from a deep cover agent. The bioweapon threat galvanized the resistance like nothing before. "All units, this is Hunter," Darren broadcast. "We've got a code black. Sirefather's going scorched earth. Alpha team with me. We're taking the fight to that bastard's doorstep." Darren led his most hardened veterans on a hellish push into the heart of Sirefather's stronghold. They fought tooth and nail through twisting corridors and alien kill zones. The air grew thick with ozone and the stench of burning flesh. Corporal Lisa Chen fell, a Komar energy bolt burning through her armor. "Keep going," she gasped, using her last breath to prime a grenade and take out the aliens who killed her. They finally breached the bioweapon facility, finding Sirefather and his inner circle preparing to unleash Armageddon. What followed was a nightmare of close-quarters combat, human and alien, locked in a desperate struggle for the fate of the planet. Darren himself faced off against Sirefather, their battle a blur of superhuman speed and alien technology. In the end, it came down to raw human will. Darren drove a combat knife into Sirefather's primary heart cluster, ending the threat once and for all. But victory came at a terrible price. Most of Darren's team lay dead or dying. Earth's cities were in ruins, and the human race teetered on the brink of extinction. And now, word came of Komar reinforcements inbound from deep space. Exhausted and bloodied, Darren knew he had one last card to play. He gathered Earth's greatest minds, the unsung heroes who'd cracked Komar codes and reverse-engineered their tech. "We've got one shot at this," Darren told them. "If we can't beat them with brawn, we'll have to outthink them." They worked feverishly, crafting a message that would turn the Komar's rigid hierarchy against them. When the forgery was complete, Darren gave the order to broadcast. High above the Earth, the Komar Armada received the transmission. Without hesitation, they turned their weapons on their own ground forces. Orbital bombardments rained down, annihilating Komar and human alike in cleansing fire. Darren watched from an underground bunker as the sky burned. He felt no triumph, only a bone-deep weariness and the weight of countless lives lost. As the Komar tore themselves apart in a final orgy of destruction, he knew humanity's trial by fire was only beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.